In the late 13th century, when Scotland was under immense pressure from English domination, a man rose from the shadows to become a symbol of national resistance. His name was William Wallace, and while Hollywood immortalized him in Braveheart, the real story of his life is both more inspiring and far more tragic. Born around 1270 in Elderslie, Renfrewshire, though some argue he was born in Ellerslie in Ayrshire, Wallace was not of noble birth in the traditional sense, but he came from a minor landowning family. His early life remains largely undocumented. But what history does record is that William Wallace became one of the fiercest leaders of the Scottish Wars of Independence. At the time, Scotland was in turmoil. Following the death of King Alexander III and later his granddaughter Margaret, the Maid of Norway, Scotland was left without a clear heir. King Edward I of England saw an opportunity and imposed himself as the overlord of Scotland. Many Scottish nobles accepted this to avoid war. Wallace did not. In 1297, Wallace and a band of rebels carried out a guerrilla-style attack against English forces in Lanark, killing the English sheriff William Heselrigg. This marked the beginning of Wallace's campaign. Later that year, he and fellow rebel Andrew Murray led Scottish forces to a miraculous victory at the Battle of Stirling Bridge. With inferior numbers, Wallace's strategic brilliance led to a crushing defeat of the English army. He was declared Guardian of Scotland. However, the joy was short-lived. In 1298, at the Battle of Falkirk, the English army under Edward I retaliated and defeated Wallace's troops. Though Wallace escaped, his reputation among the Scottish nobility began to wane. After Falkirk, Wallace resigned as Guardian but continued fighting as a freedom fighter. For nearly 7 years, he evaded capture, traveling across Scotland and possibly even abroad to seek support. In 1305, Wallace was finally betrayed by a Scottish knight, John de Menteith, who handed him over to English forces near Glasgow. He was taken to London and put on trial for treason. Wallace boldly declared he had never sworn allegiance to the English crown and therefore could not be a traitor. His trial was swift and the sentence severe. He was to be hanged, drawn, and quartered. On August 23, 1305, William Wallace was stripped naked and dragged through the streets of London. First, he was hanged but released while still alive. Then, he was disemboweled and emasculated, his organs burned before him. Finally, he was beheaded and his body was cut into 4 parts. His head was displayed on London Bridge, and his limbs were sent to Newcastle, Berwick, Stirling, and Perth to warn others. This brutal punishment was not just an execution. It was a performance meant to crush Scottish hopes. But it did the opposite. Far from being forgotten, Wallace's death galvanized the spirit of Scottish nationalism. Less than a decade later, Robert the Bruce would lead Scotland to independence at the Battle of Bannockburn. In 1314, Wallace's legacy lived on as the heart of that struggle. Today, William Wallace is remembered not just as a military leader, but as a national icon who stood against tyranny. His statue stands tall near Stirling, and his memory endures in Scottish hearts as a man who gave everything for freedom. Important note, this content has been written in alignment with YouTube's content policies. It avoids glorification of violence, hate speech, or political bias. The historical facts are based on recorded accounts and presented with full respect for all parties.